Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank all Islanders for listening to the advice we have been sharing for the last 2 days. Our efforts remain on preparedness, and I can tell you that in the last 24 hours, people are taking this seriously, and that's what we want you to do, so thank you again. We are in the last few hours before we start to really see the beginnings of Fiona. So if there are some last-minute things to get or to do, I would suggest you do them now, as early as you can, and do it safely. I met again with EMO leadership and my cabinet colleagues to get the latest on Fiona, and Tanya will share with everyone shortly about where we are. As we prepare for what some are calling an historic storm surges, high winds, and lots of rain, there are a few more things to share with residents. Tonight and overnight and into tomorrow, some people may be curious and want to get closer to look at the storm. My message is simple. Don't. Don't go near the water. Don't put yourselves and others at risk. It's dangerous. You may then need emergency help, and our first responders will come and help, but our resources really need to be focused on where we need them and where we need them to be. Let's help them by staying safe and out of their way. Once Fiona passes, provincial crews and others will be on the ground as soon as it is safe to assess the damage. If you don't need to be on the roads, please don't. And if you need to be, please be careful. As we've said in the past few days, this storm is going to impact us, and we will see damage. Our crews will be out, as will fire services, conservation officers, and our community organizations that will be supporting our province and residents. What we are doing this time around that's a little different is we will have an online form ready to launch on Sunday for folks to report in any damage. It's a short form, and the information you provide us will help us get a better picture of how widespread and impactful the damage was. Islanders will be our eyes and ears too. For anyone who isn't comfortable completing an online form, we will have a phone line set up so someone on the other end can fill in the form for you. The phone line may be busy, so please be patient. For road damage, the Department of Transportation will be updating and monitoring 511. Residents can reach their local dispatch offices 24/7 this weekend, and this will be reevaluated on Monday. And of course, at any time, if you are in danger or there is an emergency, please call 911. And as a final note, and this is nothing new, Fiona may be one of the most powerful storms in Canadian history, but it's not the first or the last storm Islanders will experience. We will get through this together. We will come out of this, as we always do, as a community that looks after one another. So check on your loved ones and your neighbors, and please stay safe, everyone, and please stay home. Now I'll turn this over to Tanya.
Thank you, Minister. So give you a quick update from Canadian Hurricane Center. So we met with them again this morning for the latest update in the track, and basically from yesterday there's been very minor adjustments. Really doesn't change the impacts. What they are telling us now is that instead of it being potential impacts, it's more certain impacts. So we are still going to see significant rainfall. Overnight tonight. Right now we're in a bit of a lull calm period, perhaps the calm before the storm. So we're going to experience heavy rain over the next 24, 36 hours, and then very significant high winds. Again, probably winds that we haven't experienced before. We could see in excess of 120, 130 kilometers per hour for a sustained period of time. As a result of that wind, we're going to see a very significant storm surge, most notably on the north side of the province in all those low-lying areas, but we could see impacts on other areas of the coast as well, not just to the north side. So I wouldn't want anyone to think that they're out of harm's way. If you are in an area where you have experienced storm surge before and have experienced flooding, it would be my recommendation that you attempt to secure those belongings and maybe even seek higher ground so that you can ensure that yourself and your family and your friends remain safe. So, it is mid-afternoon on Friday, and we're anticipating that Fiona will arrive late in this evening. So, there is a very short window for you to continue or to finalize, I should say, your preparedness efforts. Whether or not it's topping up your fuel tanks or securing things outside. As I was driving in town today, I happened to note, the green and the black bins that many people leave at the end of their driveway. Those would be great things to pull inside if you can, secure in an area so that those don't become, again, additional projectiles or blocking roadways, again, when we need our emergency responders to be able to have clear passage. Here at our Provincial Operations Center, we've got a pretty full house right now. We're still at a level 2 activation, but that just means that we've kind of selected kind of the key players that need to come in. We had all of them attend either virtually or in person today for a weather briefing with the Canadian Hurricane Center, and are doing planning work throughout the day today and into this evening as well. And then they'll continue to be here over the next several days. We've, making arrangements to making sure that all of those key folks are close by so that we can come back and, make access to this space and continue the work to support Islanders. We have been able to kind of confirm a plan for information sharing. We kind of mentioned it a little bit in the last couple of days as it relates to what happens if the power goes out and people have no means to get updates from the internet, Facebook, or Twitter. So we've worked on establishing a bit of a network that we would be able to distribute information through our municipalities, through maybe first responders, whatever that might look like in the event of a network or an internet failure. So we'll be able to ensure that residents will have access to information. So we would filter that out through municipalities, as well as partners in the media are doing a great job and, supporting Islanders with information flow. So we do know that CBC are going to continue their usual coverage tonight, but they're going to continue and have hourly coverage overnight, over the weekend, with very familiar voices of Wayne Thibodeau and Mitch Cormier, and several others as well. Stingray, Ocean, Hot 105 are going hourly too, and I do believe we have CFCY, and some of those folks will be actually staying in the radio station overnight to make sure that they're continuing to provide updates as they come in. We're also working really closely with our municipal partners to identify what reception centers might be open to support Islanders and their specific residents. So we do know that some of them are, already making notifications to their residents, advising them on that process. Again, if you have questions, that would be a good place to start, is reach out to your municipal town hall or your council members, and they can provide you an updated information. Minister already spoke about this online damage reporting tool. So what we are hoping to provide us, I guess, is a bit of a provincial picture and scope of damage. Here from our Provincial Operations Center, we have a very narrow view outside. So we're going to be asking Islanders to provide us with those eyes, ears, and information. So the online reporting tool or a phone number is going to just ask you very simple questions, 6 actually, and it's basically who you are, your name, an address, a civic address, property ID, so we can kind of pinpoint where damage is and the type of damage. So did you experience storm surge, or was it wind damage or tree damage? Just so that we have a bit of a picture and we can paint that a little bit easier when we have all this information coming in from all across the province. So we'll be asking folks to do that as of Sunday. We want to encourage that people stay home during Saturday, stay indoors where it's safe. We don't want you to focus on any type of cleanup or recovery efforts until we know that it's safe for you to proceed and to be out there. Again, we've said it several times. I don't think it's lost on anyone, but this will be a historic event for PEI and for Atlantic Canada. So we are really appreciative of the efforts of preparedness, but now it's really time to kind of retreat indoors, keep your family safe, and we will kind of see you on the other side of this, I guess. That would be the easiest thing, I think, to say. Anyway, as well, certainly stay away from the water. The storm surge that we could potentially see of 10, 12 meter high waves, like that's that's pretty significant. So we want people to stay away from that, especially overnight when you can't see, and throughout the day when there's high winds. So stay safe. Sunday will be a new day for us to reevaluate where we need to go, and we'll be able to provide you with additional information at that point. I will say stay safe as well. Keep your family close, and keep close to your friends and your neighbors and your anyone that you don't know that you might think that might need some support. I would reach to them as well. I'll stop there, and I think we have time for questions.
Ralph White, The Guardian. Ralph White.
Oh, sorry. The perception was a little rough there. Obviously we've seen the storm pivot a little bit in the last few hours, and some others are speculating that this could change things. They're confused as to how this doesn't change things. Can you speak further on why the storm slightly moving to the west doesn't change the impact that islanders will feel?
Sure. So Canadian Hurricane Center basically have said to us this morning that even a slight adjustment in that track is really not going to have much significant impact. The size of the storm is so enormous, so that the intention or the theory is that once the storm makes landfall, it will kind of break up a little bit, and those winds and the rain will kind of be distributed over the whole size of the storm. So it almost doesn't matter of what side of the storm you're on. Westward is actually probably not the better place for us to be if it's pivoting west, because that puts us closer to the eye and closer to the heaviest winds. But we are expecting to see high winds from tip to tip here. And again, that still there's time for that to change. As soon as it hits land, there's still an undetermined understanding of where it will actually end up going. But the best forecast at this point is suggesting that we are expecting those types of impacts of rain and high wind.
Okay, thank you.
Brian Ross, The Guardian.
I don't think I have any questions.
Steve Bruce, PDC.
Hi there to you both. I've spoken to some people today. I've seen them boarding up their windows, and they say their concern is that the wind will be strong enough that it could blow their windows in. I'm wondering from your perspective just how high the risk is with the winds that we're expecting, and if there is that risk, what your advice would be to those looking to stay safe and minimize that.
Yes, that's certainly something that we traditionally haven't had to do up here in Atlantic Canada. If you watch the U.S. news as they prep for some of the big hurricanes that have been made landfall in the U.S., that's very traditional, and because they experience those very significant storms. I've heard Canadian Hurricane Center suggest that they could break windows, and that again is part of sustained winds on top of those projectiles. So that's why we ask people to make sure that things are tied down, put away, so that you are limiting that risk. If you are living in a home that is kind of north-facing, looking at your windows, making sure that all your family, maybe not sitting next to the windows if it's high winds, but protecting all your belongings, protecting the people in your home, maybe staying away from those areas will be good prudence. And then, I don't know what the strength rating of all the different windows. I know in our space up here, we have a glazing feature on our windows that kind of gives us a bit of a more resistance to high winds. So that would kind of depend on what you have in that particular property that would determine that risk level.
Thanks. Obviously, we have a lot of people here on PEI whose first language isn't English or French. Do you have a strategy to make sure that all the right messaging is getting out to to anyone whose first language isn't English or French, to make sure they know what the situation is and how to stay safe this weekend?
Sure. So we do have a connection with, I think I don't know the current term off the top of my head, but it's the Newcomers Association. So we can reach to them and help us share messaging. So they're well connected to the community and to those individuals, and they can then translate and then distribute that messages to their clientele.
And final question, are you able at this point, to sort of pinpoint when the storm will be at its worst?
can I give you a 15-hour range? Because I think that's what it's going to be looking like. I'm preparing for, like, come 10 o'clock, that people should not be outdoors, like 10 o'clock this evening. That's where we're going to see the worst. But it's going to be like supper time. We're going to start to feel wind and rain, and then it's going to get increasingly worse. Come midnight, we're going to be probably hitting some of the high points. By 6 a.m., we are forecasted, 6 a.m. Saturday morning, we could see 150-kilometer wind gusts across the province. And then it might actually stick around for a little while until it slowly starts to ease later in the afternoon. So it's a pretty large window. But basically, I would be suggesting to people is when you're heading home tonight, and plan to kind of stay indoors until Sunday morning.
And I know you say that, yes, you should stay off the road if you don't need to be out there, but I guess need can be a bit of a subjective term. So can you lay out, I guess, what the risk is that people would really be taking if they decided, no, I need to get out and drive somewhere?
Again, it all depends on what the reason is and the why. Some people have to be on the roads because maybe they have to go to work. Maybe they're one of those emergency responders that have to go in to respond to an event or have a job in a healthcare setting or whatever that might look like. So, respectful of that, but we ask people that if they do have to do that they would be extremely cautious. If you don't have to be out there, that's great, stay home. But if you do have to be out there, just to be cautious. So if if you see water on the road, you should not drive through anything where you can't see the road, because you don't know if the road, or if the culvert or something is damaged or washed away underneath. Additionally, we don't want people walking through water that you can't see the ground, because you don't know what's in there. There could be broken glass, there could be anything, and you'd be walking into danger and you don't even know. So we just are asking people that if you don't have to be out there, stay home. Wait till sunlight is up and the sun is out on Sunday, and you can get out there and kind of have a really strong visual and be able to see what the damage is. And that will give the province time to go out and do those types of assessments as well and determine if there's areas that need to be closed to ensure everyone's safety.
Great. Thanks so much.
Laurent Rigaud.
Good afternoon. You talked about the storm surge on the North Shore, but I was wondering if there is a possibility of a storm surge on the South Shore too, specifically in Charlottetown.
I would certainly anticipate we will see some form of storm surge. I'm not sure of the value. The way the wind is coming, it's coming from the north, pushing south, so that would really effectively push the water away from the south side, but then, it's going to slam up against the New Brunswick and Nova Scotia side and kind of push back on the south side. So there is an anticipated storm surge all around the province. It will just be more significant on the north side.
Thank you.
Joey Blackyer.
Yes, it's showing here that you're looking at anywhere between 6 to 8 meters of storm surge. So
the storm surge value they're suggesting is up to about 2.5 meters, not the 6. So that would be more in the feet that you might be considering. So we could see anywhere from 1.8 meters to 2.4. I don't have the calculation conversion to get that into feet.
And what are we looking at wind-wise? I think, is it still 120 kilometers, or are we looking at higher than that?
They are suggesting that certainly we could see sustained winds of around 120, maybe higher, and then wind gusts of up to 150.
And would that be? Is that in like your? So, damage-wise, what would people be looking for after this passes through?
Well, I think with the wind, Yeah, with the wind, we're certainly going to experience power outages. We will have the storm surge. The wind will be causing that storm surge along the coastal areas of the province. And when we have power outages, we have a whole bunch of other things that kind of cascade along with that. We could have cell phone coverage could be impacted, internet could be impacted, you know, and all the other things that require electricity to operate. Fuel is going to be a challenge because if the gas stations don't have, or grocery stores don't have generators, getting those kind of items would be a challenge after the storm as well.
What kind of debris are we looking at possibly after the storm?
Sorry, did you say what kind of debris? Is that what the question was?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, most of it would be from trees, down trees, toppled trees that get uprooted, knocked over, or just the branches themselves, but also any debris that might be out there, or any item, I should say, that might be out there that hasn't been tied down. Even highway signs, they eventually could be ripped out of the ground and they can become projectiles as well. So basically anything that might be ripped off a roof or ripped off a building could eventually become debris and block roads.
And we're looking at how long of a time span before this is all over?
They're suggesting that we will probably be tomorrow evening before the kind of the full strength of the storm will be kind of moved out of it over PEI and then moving into Newfoundland and Labrador. So we could see a considerable 12-plus hours of, again, heavy rain and wind.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's it for the media questions today.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And as we said earlier, please make sure that you're prepared as much as you can be. And as soon as you can this evening, just stay home and stay there until at least Sunday if you can. And everyone just stay safe. Thank you.